Hey everybody. So today we're going to do a really fun and new activity called the lettering activity. And I'm going to go to create new in Photoshop. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose the letter size 8.5 by 11 at 300 resolution. I'm going to choose a background of white. And I am going to name this lettering and say create. So lettering activity is a really fun and creative way for me to show you how to cut images out of other shapes that are already a layer in Photoshop. So first and foremost, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the text tool, that is T for text, and I'm going to draw a box and I'm going to type in the first letter of my name, which is an S. And I'm going to make this really large so that you all can see that letter and nice and big and bold. And it doesn't matter what color it is, what's, anything like that. Though I would choose a font that is nice and thick so that you can see the image inside of the letter here that I'm going to do here in just a second. So as I'm going to get started, instead of typing everything out into a text box, I am going to put each one into a separate text box, and you'll see why in a few minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer and do Command J. And now I have two copies of this S because my last name is Scales, for those who don't know me. And I just need two, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it again. Command J, by the way, on my keyboard lets me duplicate a layer, and I'm going to double click and I'm going to do this as a C, and I'm going to basically spell out my name here. Now I'm getting a little big. I'm going to run out of space here, so I'm going to transform all of these down so that I have some space, so that I have room, and place everything in my canvas here. Now you can kind of arrange these any way you want. Personally, I kind of like this up and down methodology. So I'm going to take my next letter here and change that to an A. And I've been duplicating layers if you can see what I'm doing here. L, and then I'm going to grab one more and make my E. And kind of get these all situated. Again, the color doesn't matter. The font, you want to choose something that you can work with. And I'm just going to scale these down just so I have some room. And that was with the transform tool. And now I can kind of take these two and move these up. I'm going to take my A and my L on my layers here, and I'm going to straighten those two out to each other. And then I'm going to take my E and my S, and I'm going to straighten those out and drag these down so everything's nice and spaced. And we want to get everything nice and even. I like everything straight. That's just kind of a personal preference for me. So I take these and I'm going to straighten these out. And you can see that I'm just kind of dragging over, and now I can arrange things quite nicely. And I think, it's always a personal preference of the way you want things to look. So now that I've got my letters, and we're just going to leave them like that. It doesn't really matter what order you put them in, as long as you can kind of figure out which one's which. So I'm rearranging just a little bit because I have two S's in my name. Once you've kind of got this, you're going to go out to the internet and you're going to find some images that you want to cut out and work with. I've already done that. I've already got some images here, and I'm just going to drag in my first one to work with. I love Van Gogh. I know some people find that to be very cliche, but I don't care. I saw him for the first time. I saw paintings of his throughout my entire life, and every time I'm just very moved by his artwork. I'm going to scale down this image that I have, and I'm going to actually turn my opacity down so I can see my letter through this painting, because I want to make sure that my image, I get as much of that image fitting in to my letter as I can. So I really want to get it nice and tight. I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard, or the check mark, to lock that in. And that's about right. And now I'm going to turn my opacity back up. On this layer, I'm going to rasterize my layer so that I can cut this out by right-clicking and saying rasterize layer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, holding down the Command or the Control key if you're on a Windows, Command if you're on a Mac, on the Van Gogh layer here, I'm going to click on the thumbnail. If you watch my mouse, that's me activating the Command key. And I click on the thumbnail, which is this little kind of preview image, and I'll make that a little larger for you. And if I click on that image here, what I'm going to get is some dancing ants, and I'll do it like this so you guys can see. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. Haha. And there it is. There's my dancing ants. So once I have those dancing ants selected, what I'm able to do is if I go back to my Van Gogh, and I'll move this so everybody can kind of see what I'm about to do. If I'm on my Van Gogh layer and I inverse my selection, select, inverse. Now when I backspace, the rest of my painting is gone. And what I have is just the letter in the same shape as that S that I cut out. So now I can deselect my dancing ants. I no longer need this S, so I can delete that. And now I have this beautiful S cut out of my Van Gogh image. I'm going to do it again just so you guys can see how I do this a couple of more times for those who need me to do it again. This time I'm going to do sunflowers, which is a beautiful painting. I always love the colors. And again, I'm going to scale this down so that it fits over my letter C here. And you can kind of do it either way. You can kind of go above or below like this. I think it's kind of a dealer's choice, whichever method you think works best for you. And then sometimes what I like to do is I like to zoom in. So if there's like a subject that I really want to make sure that I'm capturing the sunflowers themselves, and if I drag this up, you can kind of see where I'm going to see just parts of it in this letter C. So sometimes some images are better for other letters depending. So this one actually might work better, say for my L. So actually let's move that down. So sometimes I'm going to place things differently depending on what it is I'm trying to do, the look I'm trying to go for. So yeah, this one's going to work better for that L image. And I'm going to just pull that like this and kind of get it placed where I want it. So sometimes, you just kind of determine what you're going to do. And this time I'm going to do it again. I'm going to grab the thumbnail of the letter L. I'm going to inverse, which is Command or Control Shift I on my keyboard. And you can see my dancing ants move from the L to the edge of the paper. And then I'm going to backspace. But what did I forget to do? I forgot to rasterize my layer. And I'm going to backspace. I'm going to deselect, deleting my letter L, and then turning the opacity up on my image. And I'm going to do this for all of the letters of my name, choosing a different image for each letter. It's up to you kind of the order of images that you want to choose. Like I chose to go with one kind of central theme here. If you want to choose, different images for different things that like you think remind you of yourself, I think that's a personal preference. I just chose this one theme. Again, I've done the command. I'm clicking on the thumbnail. I'm inversing my selection. I'm rasterizing my layer. Backspace. I'm going to turn my opacity back up. I'm going to Command D for deselect, and now I can delete my letter C. And normally I would continue and I would do all of the letters of my name until I get this kind of pretty thing. And you can use this for a lot of different things. It doesn't have to just be letters. It can be just to kind of show you different options. So we'll pull this crow's image in, which was the last thing he ever painted. So if I chose a circle instead, for example, if I had a circle that I wanted to cut out, this shape, we'll do an oval. And then on this, and I choose the thumbnail of that as well, and I can move that painting around depending on what it is I'm trying to do. And I choose that thumbnail, and then I inverse again, rasterizing the layer, backspace, deselect, and then I can remove that. So you have lots of ways you can use this. You can use this on a pen tool shape if you want to use the pen tool and kind of create your own shape and cut out a specialized shape depending on what it is you're trying to do. You can use this for almost anything. It doesn't have to just be letters or shapes. You can use this for anything that's already created. And I use this actually quite a bit. It's a very versatile skill to have, is knowing that the command key will select your whatever's in that layer and put dancing ants or selection, depending on what you prefer to call it, and allows you to manipulate and edit that image. Hope everybody enjoys this activity. I look forward to seeing your letters. Remember that you have to have 4 that spell out something, at least 4 letters, preferably your name.